No.
Welcome, everyone. Joe liked to sound the alarm and asked if we were live before we were live. And so I said, no, we're live now. But welcome, everyone. What an insane week. I think it's probably been one of the more, I think, earnings calls where it had maybe people more confused or kind of like a little bit not sure where things were headed, even though there was a lot of signal leading into this that certain numbers were going to look a certain way. But I think that the important factors that were laid out were very loud and clear. Either way, we'll get into all of that. We all have different opinions and takes. Hopefully, Xander can join us in a little bit. He's our special guest today. But thank you to Joe. We had a late turnaround last night, so thank you for putting together this deck. But how's everyone doing? How was your week?
My week's been crazy. I'm in China. This is my final full day here. I've been to the Shanghai Auto Show. I've been to 24 different showrooms. I've gotten to experience all that is new and crazy in EVs here. And I got to tell you, if the Europeans want to compete, seat massagers and fridges, apparently that's the big thing now.
I have not been to China, and I am currently in America. And everything's been okay. It's been an uneventful week, I would say. Nothing really happened.
Yeah, no worries.
Yep. Certainly no back massages in my car while I was driving here, there, and everywhere for the past week.
Well, yeah, Hans is looking in the market for a new car. And Brian, one quick thing: if you were to give us a 30-second like TLDR of the Shanghai, Shanghai Auto Show, what would it be?
The cars are not coming to the U.S. They're not going to be competing in the U.S. market because of tariffs and restrictions and all that. They may be going back to Europe, but the real takeaway is Legacy can't compete in all the other countries where there isn't a domestic auto industry. It's going to be China is in it to win it, in Australia, in South America, in Africa. Those are the markets that the Legacy guys just won't be able to compete.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, let's jump into it. I think I saw Xander pop in, but he popped back out. So we'll hopefully be able to add him in a minute. Okay, so funny enough, we were talking. I think Brian was actually calling this out, but it's funny because it's one of those things where it was like an interesting earnings call, and yet the stock has like rebounded, and you can see it has gone up. So I think we've been historically down like negative 35% year to date. We are only at negative 27%. So it's rebounded about that 9% from the one of the lows. But the overall story, earnings per share, 27 cents versus the 39 estimated. Revenue was at 19.3 million versus 21.1 billion. And the net income was 409 million. So they were still profitable, even though, they had shut down their factories. But I think let's just go roundtable real quick. We can kind of get into the highlights, but I would love to know just, what was everyone thinking and what were your thoughts on the earnings call? What were your big takeaways?
I'll go first. Okay. Because I don't really have like a huge take. So I think it's been pretty incredible to watch Tesla navigate everything that's happened, because even with the greater macro of what's happening overall with all car companies, not just EVs, but the overall market in general, it's hit pretty hard, like overall. So for Tesla to navigate that along with everything else that's happening to Tesla specifically, and for the numbers to be what they are, as well as the stock numbers to not drop as low as I thought they could have dropped, I think it's been pretty incredible. I mean, they're hit from every storm that could have has hit Tesla, and they still are in a pretty good place. And so that's pretty crazy.
Not all at once. Hans and Brian.
Go for it, Brian.
Sure. Well, I would say that this quarter is the perfect storm. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. All your factories are down. Elon's destroying the company. The economy's in free fall. It is the end of the road for Tesla. And yet they made more profit and at a higher margin than any of the other EV companies, a higher margin than almost any other automotive company. And this is our dark, dark days. That's a good sign. A lot of us in the community were very disappointed with the numbers, but Wall Street looked at it and said, wait, if this is how bad it gets before autonomy, before cybercab, before bots, we're in a pretty good position. Why don't we load up a little bit? And that's what we've been seeing from the market is more optimism than I expected. So in my comments on my videos, I've been getting people saying these numbers are catastrophic. It's going down to $60 a share now. And I say, well, the market day after day, 3 days straight disagrees with you. So maybe all of those millions of people know something that you don't, or maybe you're just the secret genius and your predictions of doom and gloom are real. But it's always the same story with the doubters and haters. They always come in, they always predict the end of times, and then they disappear. They never come back to say, I was wrong. So I didn't see anything that was super exciting. I'm very glad to see reiteration on some key timeline targets. I was excited to see that Roadster is no longer listed as maybe someday. It's actually gotten a small update. They're actually thinking about it now. But overall, it was not a big earnings call, but it's what the market needed.
I think my takeaways from the call were just listening to the tone in Elon's voice. It does sound like he was low energy, beaten down a little bit. And I think that is somewhat understandable given all of the stuff that's been going on lately. And I think the increased stress of dealing with all of the uncertainty that's created by the tariff situation. And I think, Elon's really going to be in a tough spot between Shanghai and the United States until there is a lot more resolution to this. I think the upside of the position that he's in is that he is in a key role that he can be used in this negotiation as a go-between, and hopefully that will bear positive fruit. There's definitely no guarantees, but there is an opportunity there for him to act as a mediator. Aside from those factors, the reiteration of the timeline in June is incredibly important for autonomy. And then the update that we got after, I have no idea what was the deal saying, hey, we're going to have this company update thing that it seemed like they were hyping up more than normal. And then it was like a standard call that confused me. But then we did get the next day, the announcement, or not the announcement, but the video of how they're working with the robotaxi fleet. And we've got these 15,000 miles already, offered over 1,500 rides, both in Austin and in San Francisco. We kind of knew some of those things, but we didn't have numbers around rides and miles. So getting those rides and miles was good. But all of that, I think, creates some certainty around, hey, we are moving towards this ride hail network business model. And, if we're not punting down the road and it's only 2 months away, then that is a little bit of extra certainty to the market. And then when you combine that with just how beaten down things have been, like the macro market is far and away the major driving force behind the stock price movements at this point in time. And so, we were at max uncertainty here over the last month. I think we're increasingly getting more and more certainty on what that's going to look like. Obviously, it's not certain yet, but it's more certain than it was, 6 weeks ago. And so, or not 6 weeks, more certain than it was 2 weeks ago. And that helps this kind of melt up when it was so beaten down as well. And I think that I'm continuing to look for updates really on miles and rides, and then the operating domain? When can we start doing robotaxi unsupervised? I think so. One of the things also, I guess, to add to the fun clarity that we got out of the call was that they didn't say specifically, but they insinuated by having like remote supervisors of the Model Ys that are going to be operating on the robotaxi network, that you are not going to have a safety driver in the car. And that's actually significant. I'm kind of surprised that they're planning to launch, and maybe they won't. Maybe the first day or the first week they'll still have safety drivers in the car. But even if they're planning in the first months to have no supervisor or safety drivers in the car, that's a pretty significant development from my standpoint, that they are pretty confident in the safety of the system. So I think all of those things kind of add up to say, hey, if we can get semi-regular updates on rides, semi-regular updates on miles, we don't have any huge safety critical crashes, and then we can say, okay, hey, this week we're operating in Austin, and then a month from now we're also operating in San Francisco, and then a few months from now we're operating in Miami, and that scope of the area that FSD unsupervised is able to operate in continues to grow. Like, those are the 3 key leading metrics, or I guess 4 if you include safety, to watch for. That, like, that's going to dictate how quickly Tesla moves from being a company whose entire profit profile is defined by the traditional auto sales business model, and then how much of it is defined by software. And the more that is defined by software, then the more this thing just goes on the rocket ship ride.
Yeah, I love everyone's input, because I think everyone has great point of views from different like strengths that they cover, on how they cover Tesla. Because I think I think there was a lot of, like, for at least for me, I think Joe mentioned it even at the beginning when we were talking internally. It's like, in my opinion, I personally expected, we knew the numbers were going to be misses. We knew a lot of this stuff coming into it. I mean, maybe we didn't know, as some people would say, how bad it was going to be, but everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. You had, literally people attacking Tesla owners, dealerships, brand from a public perception could have been at all-time lows. Then you also shut down the factories for 3 to 5 weeks for the Model Y ramp across 3 continents, 4 major factories. And so, at least for me, like, I remember talking with Elon back in May of 2022. It's crazy that that's almost been 3 years ago. But he said, at the time, this is before robots kind of came into the mix, really AI and robots. But it was more of like, FSD is like really whether or not Tesla's worth what it is today versus nothing. And, this is the North Star. And like, I've been driving on FSD since October of 2020. And it's gotten so much better. I mean, I drove 200 miles each way to Reno and back. And, there's still rooms for improvement, but overall, it's just doing the drive all the way for me. And so we're living really in that future. Sure, there's still engagement from me here and there. But ultimately, it's gotten so much better over the past 4 years. It's taken a lot longer to solve. I remember, I think I saw a post from Farzad this morning too, where, Tesla is solving FSD with 8 cameras, right? 8 or 9 cameras built into the infrastructure, versus Waymo they have to go buy the car, then add on all of this like structure and all the cameras, and who knows how much the full rig costs. But that's the difference, is that, Tesla will be able to solve things at a cost that is unimaginable to people at Waymo. So I think it was, at least for me, my takeaways were that Tesla continues to hold firm on June. They've been hyping it. They're pushing for it. And I think they know that life happens. So hopefully this does not get pushed. But this is, they have been hyping it, sharing images of meeting with the Department of Transportation, and also the city of Austin. And we're even hearing things. I think yesterday some rumors broke about, Trump continuing to work on removing regulations at the federal level to help with self-driving. So there's a lot of, in my opinion, on the things that they're going to deliver and what makes this company exciting. They're continuing to hold strong on those values, and that's ultimately why I'm invested in the stock. What got me excited about the future. So I think, yeah, we'll see what happens. But as Brian greatly said, just that the margins, and not only the margins, but just being profitable compared to not only legacy auto but the EV. It's like, and this is as bad as it can get, and they still did all of that. I think really resonated with me, because again, now it's just going to be about moving cars. Everything's fully ramped, so moving cars, obviously, that they're producing, delivering on FSD, and then also to at some point unveiling these new products that they have been working on top of everything else. But yeah, it was just, it really is Tesla. Like, we were just touring Gigafactory Nevada yesterday, and it was just the stories that they have to tell you about the engineering of how they're recreating processes that have never been done before, that they're building the machine that builds the machine that builds the machine. And really how every product is really the factory, right? And they decided to take Gigafactory 1 and make the semi factory as a separate factory. And it's just because they had learned so much probably from all of the factories that they've been building, and the product itself is the factory. And the other insane thing too is that Tesla, pretty much, they're the ones in charge of the construction that's happening. So that's their IP, because if the product is the factory, they own the construction team that is literally, making this happen, which is just, that's just insane. And so with that, we're going to add Xander. So welcome, Xander. How's it going, buddy?
Thanks. Going well. How are you? How are you guys? Sorry.
Good, man. Busy watching the markets as always.
Yeah, they're ripping.
Yeah, Xander, if you're unaware, you can invest in Tesla. Apparently, it's not a bad company.
Yeah. If you're down for the volatility.
Exactly. Well, we would love to know, and actually, it's funny, you joined at the perfect time. What is your big thoughts and takeaways from the earnings call this past Tuesday?
I thought it was way better than people realize. I was blown away by the ability to have the same gross margin despite a drop in revenue of $6 billion. So that's, if you have a business, there's like a break-even number where it costs to operate your business, right? So if you're going to cut back on staff, or you're going to cut back on the top line on the revenue, if your COGS don't change, you're going to feel it on the bottom line. And so for them to have less production but the same amount, that was like the big thing for me. But really, I just I zoom out from all the noise, and I did go into a space with some of our people, and the negative vibe was just like, I couldn't understand. I mean, I understand it, but I just disagree with it. I think that technically speaking, the stock has been supported, and the buyers have been stepping in every time at the 200 level. So it was setting up for this kind of breakout that we're seeing today. And of course, it doesn't make sense, right? And the stock always does the opposite of what you expect it to do. So I just focus on what's coming, which is the business model for the business. And we don't know how much they're going to charge. We don't know, is it a subscription thing? Is it a flat fee? So Wall Street is waiting for that. And I think that's the big deal, is the TAM unlock that's coming with robot brains. And that keyword unsupervised is very, very important. I think that means liability for Tesla, and you can't have, like, if you want to add your car to the network, it's not your responsibility or at least your current insurance company's responsibility. It has to fall onto Tesla because, right? If your Progressive didn't sign up to insure software of this company, so I think those are the things that I'm looking for to to be able to kind of put some pen to paper and model this thing. And I think all of Wall Street and the people that are in this business will tell you. But I'm just a monkey throwing darts and analyzing the psychology behind all of this, which is really important, right? It's you could see how the politics and the tariffs have weighed the markets, but there's like this dislocation with Tesla because you saw it go from 210 to 488 out of nowhere. Or seemingly out of nowhere because of the Trump election and Elon first buddy or all of that stuff. And so like all that noise, I kind of go away. I don't focus on it at all. And I look at the things that I can control. And I look at like, okay, regulatory yesterday, a framework being added. That's huge. Like you got to understand in the United States, having 50 different boxes to check, that's difficult. You can see it with insurance. So I think we're really on the right path, and I don't see this like doom and gloom that everyone's talking about with less expensive vehicles. But anyway, I'll land the plane there. I'll pass it back to you guys.
I think it's worth note as well to realize that on 1010. Nobody cared, but there were Model Ys doing exactly what's about to happen in Austin in June.
Exactly.
Nobody wanted to ride those. They wanted to ride the Cybercab, but the Model Y was already capable of doing that. So I think it's worth mentioning that.
Yeah, and the other thing too is
Xander
Curses. In and out quick. The other thing to note too is that Tesla released a video the day after the earnings call. Where it was they have an early pilot program going of employees actually in Austin and the San Francisco Bay Area doing it. And so, like I said, it's like this is not just a hype thing, right? This is Tesla doesn't, they may deliver very late, specifically with full self-driving. That's the one. The Cybertruck took a long time too, but ultimately they will make it happen. And there is like if you doubt this company, just go do a tour of like one of their factories and you will just be completely just blown away. I mean, this is the hardest working and most innovative company that I personally have ever seen. And I live right in the Valley. And, there's some amazing companies that are doing stuff out there, but this is one of the top ones. And so I think it's just one of those things that, people need to just be reminded of. And, that this is not just a hype train to boost the stock. And I thought it was funny that Xander was mentioning, because it's like, that's a good reminder. It's like the stock will do exactly the opposite of whatever you think it will. So this was seen as, at least in the community, as a really bad earnings call. And look, the stock went straight up. So, the market, and then when the funny thing is when the Tesla base or bulls, whatever you want to call it, thinks it was an amazing earnings call and the stock goes down. So I think that's always something to remember.
That was my expectation, was that we would have a small beat over expectation and that it would, of course, then go down. And remember, Tesla didn't miss. Wall Street missed. The analysts missed. They're the ones who got the numbers wrong. Tesla didn't provide guidance that they missed on. We saw it with Rivian maybe a year ago, where twice before their earnings, Rivian revised upward. Wall Street revised even higher, and they missed that number. Oh, it's a miss. Oh, Rivian, what are you doing? So it's a little bit of craziness there. I did want to say something on FSD unsupervised. I don't think it's going to come to China in the foreseeable future because, as I've learned from a local here, there is a law that stipulates you must have remote operators at a ratio of one operator for every 3 vehicles. That's too many. That's too many humans involved. You could never afford that. You would have to rent out hours on unsupervised use. So you wouldn't be able to just buy FSD and have it run unsupervised. You would spend through all that money in supervision. So I think that's a good bit of clarification there, and worth noting that in China they are also not allowed to call it self-driving. There's very strict rules on what you can call it, which I think will benefit Tesla in terms of expectations.
Well, I also saw a video where BYD and all these other companies that had self-driving or ADAS systems in their vehicles, they couldn't get through this roundabout with a tree with a couple of trees on it, and Tesla could. I don't think Tesla really needs unsupervised. I mean, the videos coming out of China are freaking bonkers, anyways. So I don't think like unsupervised is needed everywhere. I think for the company to be able to do it in any country is going to be a standout, and other countries will try to find a way to get it once it's proven that it works. And I think that's where it's going to be. I think China is going to do China, and I think they'll probably change the rules accordingly once they realize that they don't have something that everybody else has.
Actually, I would say that I think China will change the rules once Chinese companies can also do it at that level. Why make a carve out just for Tesla? Just because Tesla could do 100 cars to one supervisor or 1,000 cars, they want to also protect the domestic industry. Every car brand here is pushing for autonomy. A number of them already have systems as good as what I'd call version 10 of FSD. And a lot of those companies are partnering with each other, where you'll see a number of brands have already adopted Huawei's autonomous systems and hardware into their vehicles. And also worth noting, there are a number of companies that use LiDAR, and there are companies that also don't, that have shared Tesla's approach, saying it's not an issue of a lack of perception that we're struggling with, it's a lack of decision making. So having more sensors can cause more interference, can cause more noise in the signal, and it doesn't always help. And a lot of the problems with vision are problems that are shared with LiDAR. Well, it can't see through the rain as well. Yeah, neither can LiDAR. That's a problem. So there is no silver bullet. But yeah, everyone's pushing for it, at least in China.
Yeah, seems like that's a really helpful information too. I didn't know that about China and having to have three for every 3 autonomous vehicles, or you need 1 operator, because that business model is going to be hard to scale, especially in a place like China. That's a whole call center. It's crazy.
If only there were bots. Well, it's nothing. Forget it. Forget I said anything.
All right, Joe, I'll pass this one to you. You're
okay,
muted.
So yeah, I've got like Google going off in the background. Okay, so the highlights and summary. You have pretty much already touched on this, but I think it's worth noting that this line here: uncertainty in automotive and energy markets continue to increase as rapidly evolving trade policy adversely impacts the global supply chain and cost structure of Tesla and our peers. I mean, that's a pretty broad statement, but it's directly associated with everything that's happening. And as we've already stated, Tesla was able to navigate all of this through everything that's happening on the macro, as well as with the company directly associated with the company. So I think that them having all the money they have on their balance sheet in cash reserves, as well as everything that the fundamentals haven't changed. You know what I mean? Like we used to preach that all the time, like the fundamentals are the fundamentals and everything else is just noise. And we kind of got away from that, but Tesla is just operating on fundamentals. They want to do what they're going to do. And right before everybody's eyes, they are slowly transitioning from a car company to something else. And people are just like lost in the sauce and not really realizing like what's happening, but they are just making moves that nobody else is making. And it's pretty major. when I speak, I silence the room, and the truth is, I'm amazing. I'm incredible, you guys.
Yeah, no worries. We'll jump. Sounds like no one has any comments on this. Yeah, I think just by the numbers, right? I think there's a lot going on this quarter, right? From I think everything that you can pretty much think of could go wrong went wrong. But at the same time, they were still able to be profitable, add money to their cash balance. I think it was only 0.4 billion, but given the headwinds that they faced, and I think it was Jeff Lutz who called out that Tesla could have over ramped and had insane shifts going in late Q4 and even through part of Q1 before they shut down the factories to have a lot of extra legacy a lot of legacy Model Ys, but they didn't. They knew, I think, instead of spending that money, they kept it so that they could have more profitable quarters in Q4 and even now. So I think that, again, just it really, when you compare it to, again, as Brian was calling out, the other EV companies, the legacy auto companies, they're not doing the numbers that Tesla is doing, especially given all these headwinds. And I think as we see these tariffs come to fruition and as these tariff deals get made, we'll see how the final impact is, because there's a lot of uncertainty right now. Like even with China, right there, the deal hasn't been announced or made. I mean, it's not 150%, maybe it's 50 to 60. But once those things do, I think you'll continue to see, in my opinion, Tesla to win in this space. There will be an impact. I think I'm already starting, at least even in the consumer electronics space, like people are starting to adjust their prices, or at least talking about it and preparing for it. So it'll be really interesting to see how things continue to turn over the next couple of weeks and months.
Yep. One of the things that I'll add on that subject is just it's pretty impressive to see the prudence of the team at Tesla and their foresight. They're usually better prepared when these things that are unexpected happen than anyone else. So part of it is the supply chain that they have built up. They, have focused on localization. That makes them more resilient in these times already. But, to your point about the comments that Jeff has made, they didn't over ramp production. They didn't stock up on these vehicles because I think they wanted to have maximum flexibility, and they knew that there was some uncertainty ahead, and they prepared for that in advance very well. And I think that is one of the things that when the market looks at Tesla relative to its peers, they say these people are better able to navigate these chaotic times than anyone else. And so, when money starts to move around, like, would you rather today sell GM and buy Tesla? I think so. And so for those people that are trading it more like an auto company, their resilience during these times is very impressive.
Yeah, I was going to ask Xander about that because there's been a lot that's happened, like the fires in California and things like that. Does that factor in when, like, Tesla's resilience? Does that factor in at all with investments for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can have where are we at now, like a $900 billion valuation. If we continue to talk about like autos and the less expensive vehicle, it's really not about cars for me. And I think the market is giving partial credit, obviously, that this is not just an automaker, even though that's currently the largest, obviously, the percentage of their revenue. But really, it's the autonomy piece. Like, everyone is waiting to find out how much money they're going to be able to put to the top line. And if you look at the Optimus being added into the slide deck and see the pilot production line, and if you have FSD, what we know. If you're using it, like my wife uses FSD 92% of the time. We could see it in our Tesla insurance. She drove over 1,000 miles over the last 30 days. And That's a staggering statistics. That never used to happen. She didn't like it. She would always disengage. She would get a bad insurance score. And this version is great. And so getting a ride at 1010, it really opens your eyes when you're in a vehicle. It feels like a ride at Disneyland. You're in a vehicle with no steering wheel, no controls. That the market is not stupid. They're looking at those videos and what that does. It's different than Waymo. It's different than anything that we've ever seen. So I think unsupervised, that same brain goes into now robots, and we could discount Elon time. You can account for it. You know that it's gonna take a while. But if you just think like a million Optimus in 2029, how much is that? Right, that's a revenue stream that no one is modeling. That TAM is unmeasurable. So you can kind of make guesses, but now that's why I think that we're getting this kind of result, is because some of these numbers. This is the first time I've heard a million in 2029, and maybe I don't pay as close attention to some other people, but yeah, it matters. It matters how well they manage. I thought that as well. I thought management did a phenomenal job on handling their cash, not doing buybacks, all of the things that people and advertising. You hear those criticisms, but I think that they're focused on autonomy. Elon bet the company on it, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the fruit is going to happen soon, hopefully.
It's interesting you point that out, because a lot of people talk about autonomy, they talk about the robotaxi and everything, right? But Tesla Energy, I mean, we'll see in the slides later, but Tesla Energy is just like crushing it. Like,
exactly.
Nobody's factoring that in. Like, Tesla's just like doing all these things, man, that were just so unexpected. And
we should talk about it. Joe, go for it, man.
Yeah.
You brought it up.
So I mean, look at the freaking numbers. So I mean, do you even think about that, Xander, when you're looking at? I mean, you talked about like the other piece, but this is huge, right?
Absolutely, yeah. The number of terawatts is going to be. I mean, like when I invested into Tesla, which was in 2019, this chart is what I saw coming, thanks to Gally, for becoming a profitable company. Now you're seeing the same exact thing, and they're just scaling. And right now it's kind of linear, right? The battery cell production is ramping. So what happens when you start hitting your stride and the demand is only going up? And when I think about what Tesla is as a company, it really is that that stool of three legs, where you have generation, right? You can capture it, you could store it in some batteries, and then you can utilize it. And that to me is freedom. That to me is energy prices can continue to fly, but I can get a little place out there somewhere, do these things, and I can have some freedom. I can get some chickens. I don't have to be dependent and under the thumb of big business and corporations. So I think like the freedom that this company will bring is phenomenal, and that's where the line that he said during the meeting about abundance for all, and not just the United States, but abundance. Sustainable abundance. I love it. I love that the company's going to continue to highlight the vision of what Elon has in his head. But now it's just time to deliver it. So seeing energy come up like that and continue to come, it's great. The demand is going to be there, right? People want Powerwalls. People want Megapacks.
Yeah, and we were just out at the Gigafactory in Nevada, and you see this building on the right, the top right, and this is the semi factory that they have literally put up. It's gone up since August. Like, I think the first post went up in August of 2024. So in a matter of 8 months, they have literally all 4 walls are up. They're working on an expansion right now for their stamping process, which was I think potentially a late addition. But when you think of that, along with even on the top left, the Optimus pilot program. So we again toured Giga Nevada, and that these are like, you look at what the workers are doing, and you can just see that vision of being able to see once these robots are useful in the factory. And again, Elon has mentioned that these robots will be useful in the factory by the thousands over the next several months and really over the next year as they continue to ramp this. So I think it's just like, these are things that are being worked on that and even with the energy business, I think it was like 15% of all the profit that Tesla is doing right now is literally coming from energy. But again, it's just, there's so many of these like small things, like as we say, Tesla's a bunch of mini startups in one. Like, it really is crazy just that there's all of these small mini projects. Like, again, the Semi, it's been a long time coming for the Semi, but they're ramping. You go to Giga Nevada, they are transporting every 15 minutes. Again, I'm kind of exaggerating here, but 15 to 20 minutes, you see a Semi coming out with batteries or powertrains going to Fremont. It's a real thing. It's happening. I sat out there for a full hour in front of one of the corners on Electric Road or Avenue or whatever it was, and we just saw them going by, and it's just like one after the next. And this is no longer an idea. These are things that are happening. Same thing with the robot. These are things that are they're not just it's a cool thought, right? This is stuff that they're being used in the factory. They're still working on, obviously, the programming and and how the final design will look for the robot. Same thing with the Semi, but it's like they're using it and doing things with it to this very day with the Semi and the robot. So I don't know. Yeah, I just wanted to echo some of the stuff you were saying, Xander.
In case you guys don't know, I actually have a Semi reservation with my business partner, and I don't know anything. We're like 15,000. We were one of the last ones to place an order, actually the day of. So it's one of those things that Tesla plants seeds a long time before they can bear the fruit. And so if you think that this is a mature car company, it was never a car company. It's a completely different beast, and their pace of innovation is just staggering. And so you have this, like, right in front of your face, but Wall Street isn't missing it. They're already deploying, and that's kind of what you're now seeing, that there's a trust that we're on the path to bearing the fruit of those decisions.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I had talked to the guy who was giving us a tour at Giga Nevada, and one of the questions that was asked previously was like, "Hey, man, is that going to put people out of work?" And he was like, "Man, are you kidding? There's so many jobs that people are doing right now, 12 hours a day, that they would rather be doing something else in the company, and now they're going to be afforded that ability to do something else, because Tesla has such a ethos within the company of like, hey, you have ideas, like, give them to us. Let's run it. Let's see if it works. You know what I mean? Like, they're not afraid to fail. And so there's so many people that are like doing, I'm talking the most drudgeonous work. I literally saw a guy picking up metal slates and placing them on a belt to be washed, and he was just doing that like
All day.
Please
day.
steal my job. Please, I beg you.
Yeah. Man, he so quickly wants to give that job to Optimus, and so he can do other things for the company. And I mean, and that's, I mean, we keep saying it, but yeah, they are definitely not an auto company. They are doing so much more. So many things are happening, but yeah, I don't think really we can every time I think Tesla's about to do something, like it's nothing what I thought it was, and it ends up becoming like something way bigger and broader than I could have ever thought. So I just know that's going to happen soon.
If you look at how difficult the trucking industry is in terms of attracting new drivers, they're really struggling already. It would be very conceivable that the adoption rate would still barely keep up with the natural rate, with the replacement rate for new drivers, anyhow. So if you're already in the trucking industry doing freight deliveries, it's very likely that you will still finish your career just with fewer and fewer new guys coming on around you while autonomy gets up to speed. Because Tesla can move quickly, but even this big new factory, which went up very quickly, is going to take time to fill the market. Even if all trucking companies manage to get to the point where FSD for all of them works overnight, it's going to be years before the regulations allow it. There will still be supervision in some regards. And even still, you're talking 20 years before all of the existing trucks are slowly phased out. We've got time. Automation is already here. It's been here for 50 years, for 100 years, and we still have record unemployment, low unemployment. We still have a lot more amazing jobs that need to be filled than people to fill them. And like you were saying, every time I see some poor sap stuck doing a task that would be better done by a robot, I just think, what a waste of talent. That person deserves better. The company deserves better. And yeah, let's get that job going.
And
Brian,
I would just want to add to the semi point, it and Megapacks are definitely supply constrained products based on lithium. Like they're such lithium hungry products that it's going to be quite some time before they can really ramp up to the type of volumes that it'll take to replace the global fleet of semis or be able to buffer the entire world's grid. And so, yeah, I'm not worried about the displacement that is going to be coming for truck drivers from semi anytime soon. It's going to be a great product for the company. It's going to be great as this transitions over. Eventually, we have the possibility of having overland freight rates once it is fully autonomous that are going to be even cheaper than trains, which is great for the economy and for everyone, even though that will mean fewer jobs for people who are driving trucks, but then you still have to have loading and unloading, and so there's all kinds of stuff. Like you could increase the overall amount of freight that is being moved by truck, and depending on how much you can or cannot automate the warehousing and all of that stuff, you might end up having more total jobs in the shipping and logistics sector because you are growing the size of that and growing the economy at the same time. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, I mean the semi is going to be like I said, it's what's crazy is that Tesla is using their own product right now. And again, I don't know how many semis they have, but again, at least like 8 to 5, they're running every 15 minutes and they're using their own product to go 200 miles pretty much each way over a thing called the Donner Pass, which actually has an insane incline. It's a 2-way road each way, and it's going up an insane grade. Along with, you have pretty crazy climate differences during the winter, like snow, and and it actually blocks a lot of people and truckers from going up that route during during the crazy winter times. So they're already using it and doing it. So I think they're putting some insane amount of like testing hours into this future product. But with that said, I know we are kind of coming down to the hour. We mentioned this, the Tesla ride hailing, June on track. Even Trump is taking steps to ease hurdles at the federal level, which is exciting. Joe, I'll kick this one to you.
Oh, I did just want to say real quick. Xander earlier said we don't want a patchwork quilt of 50 sets of regulations, but I would argue it's worse than that, because without a federal framework that's easy to adopt, you could see individual cities putting up even more roadblocks. You could see a patchwork quilt that looks more like the utility landscape we see rather than a state by state one. So your point was right, Xander, but even then you were understating how messy it could get in a hurry.
Yeah, I tend to focus on like that charging network that needs to be built out for semi. That to have a megawatt charger. Well, they're gonna. We saw some deployment. I don't remember where it was, but it was a ton of solar with like 60 or 100 regular Tesla chargers and a bunch of mega packs. And so like the demand just to build out the infrastructure for the semi business, which is coming, it's gonna that energy piece is gonna fly. And before we go to the app, I just want to point out the stock is at 282, which is bonkers. We're up 9%.
Go to 300.
On what? On what?
Oh, I'll tell you.
It's probably us. It's on us.
Yeah,
It's
because I bought options on
You bought
Tuesday
puts,
morning.
right?
No, I
wrong-
bought a call, but then I sold it on Wednesday when the stock was at 245. So now, of course, it will go.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, but this is very technical. You had a lot of negativity. That, what is it, IIAA sentiment. You can go on like CNN.com and you can see the fear greed index. Like that was at a 1. And so as the fear comes out of the market, you're going to have people that, like, I asked this question the moment after earnings. If you were waiting to see a disaster and you pulled your position, what are you doing tomorrow? Right? Did you regain confidence in management with the way they handled all of this turmoil, or are you just gonna hope for 170 and sit on your cash? So I think that what you're seeing right here is called the gamma squeeze, and that is when people are buying call options, right? They're buying their leaps, they believe, and if they believe because Tesla came out with what you showed with the robo-taxi, with the app and video, and like this gives confidence to the market. And as long as you're not negative on the company, you just see it. They're doing it, and it's coming, and the tone hasn't changed. Unsupervised is here.
I feel like we should end it with that.
Mic drop.
Exactly. But yeah, no, it's I mean, I think clearly, I think the financials were maybe not what people wanted to see, but ultimately, when you think of the worst that could happen, I think Joe famously said too, and this, at least again, before this insane rally this past couple of days, even with the worst being as bad as it looks, it's still not under $200. So it's pretty crazy. Just, all the things that are happening. But I think, as even you were mentioning, Xander, Tesla continues to hold firm on their, the FSD, and they bought the whole kitchen sink on this. And so this is what we're marching towards. This is what it's a really exciting time, especially as we end April and we get into May. I'm going to be really excited to see, are they announcing other products as well, or is it everything just fully focused on June, which would probably be the case. But yeah, it's just a really exciting time. So with that said, just wanted to quickly end this. Check us out on another YouTube channel. We have TOSV Off the Grid. If you want to see Joe's beautiful face, he'll make some casual appearances there. We have, if you've ever heard of the Twitter hell that happened, along with the Doge hell that happened, you will remember 8 Sleep. They sent those pods to Elon. They're a new partner. Great way to revolutionize the way you sleep. A couple of upcoming events. Corte Madera Cars and Coffee happening up in the North Bay, May 10th. And then, of course, if you want to see all of these wonderful faces, Hans, no pressure, but we continue to ask you to give us confirmation. But all of these wonderful faces will be up on stage at various points. And so, if you want to come to the X Takeover July 26th, a lot of really cool. It's crazy the amount of stuff that's just brewing behind the scenes. You know, the curveballs were being thrown, but just I know that over the next couple months that this plane is going to land, and it's going to be so exciting. This may end up being our best year, not only from a speaker standpoint, but just experiences and just, again, like I think having it and hosting it in the Bay Area, it just has the Silicon Valley innovation energy that, you know, is just really exciting about Tesla. So go to xtakeover.com. We would love to see you there. And outside of that, please give all of these amazing folks, our regular hosts, Brian, Joe, and Hans, a follow. And then obviously our special guest, Xander, a follow. He's tagged on X. So make sure you give him a follow, and you can regularly see him on the Cyber Bulls and other places as well. So thanks, Xander, for stepping in last minute.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah. And any other final closing thoughts, guys, before we shut down the shop?
Yeah, don't bet against Elon.
That's solid advice.
Make a shirt. All right. Have a great week, everyone. We will see you next week on the Tesla Beat 96. Have a great week, everyone. Good stuff.